All right, that's long enough. Let's get this stuff out of here. Let me see. I got to turn a couple things off. Turn this off first, then turn the countdown off. Good morning, everyone. So now that you have had the opportunity to play with the new version of Final Cut Pro 10.4.9, what do you think? We're not going to be doing a tutorial today. What we're going to be doing is just talking about the update. So we're going to be talking about the update. This is your opportunity to discuss the update. I'm going to go through some of my top things that I like, but this is not really a tutorial. I mean, there's plenty of tutorials, right? Plenty of tutorials. Let's look at, if you want tutorials, FCPX.TV, as I usually do, I have a master list of tutorials and articles about Final Cut Pro 10.4.9, FCPX.TV. This is what the master list is. What's new in Final Cut Pro 10.4.9? This is the Bible. But if you just go to the FCPX.TV home, this is where all the updates are. We have Ian Anderson, who's going to be on the show tomorrow morning, Alex 4D, Larry Jordan, of course. Videos, Ripple has an excellent video tutorial as can be expected. They have theirs on Final Cut Pro. All the good stuff. But, like I said, there's already half a dozen tutorials out there on Final Cut Pro 10.4.9, and we're just going to talk about, I'm going to talk about some of my favorite features, but I want to give everybody out there opportunity to discuss some of your favorite features and what you think about the update. Here's the first comments from Justine Paula Robillard. It was a huge surprise to see how big the update was. Massive. No question this proxy workflow. Cannot imagine what 10.5 brings. That's one of my things that I'm going to be talking about. As big as 10.4.9 was, what does that say for 10.5? I mean, 10.4.9 has really raised the bar for 10.5 when it comes out. They have changed the fonts and the look of the menus, and the proxy workflow is great. Absolutely. The proxy workflow is something that we've been talking about for a while. H.264 proxies is really, really cool. Spencer Lewis, I believe Spencer's from Philadelphia, says, good morning, Richard. And here we got a comment. This is too big to put on screen, but Christopher says, with the new 10.4.9 update, there is some sad news for Nikon Z6, Z7 users. Some kind of a problem with it. It's too long to show on screen. Jason Williams says, good morning. Good morning, Jason. Glad you could join us. Christopher says, good morning. Jason Williams says he loves it. Listen, if you saw my video yesterday, I was posting hints before it was announced. I started yesterday on Twitter, and I kept saying, update your Final Cut Pro library, update your application, etc. I kept posting things. And then I posted this morning, yesterday morning, before it was announced, I put up the video of me talking on the phone last week to somebody who was talking about Final Cut Pro. Now, of course, that wasn't a real phone call. I mean, I know you know that, but it wasn't a real phone call, but I put it up. So Jason says, the 3D animation that Motion has along inside Final Cut Pro 10. Tell me more about that. I have not dived into the Motion stuff very much. And, of course, crossfades at last. Look, 9 years to get crossfades. Who was in charge of the crossfades? That's what I want to know. Who was in charge of those crossfades that it took 9 years to get crossfades? Proxy options that show mobile for FCPS and iOS device might be in the works. Well, we don't know exactly what's in the works. Now, I'm trying something new today. Here's my desktop, straighten that out. This is my scene changer, Stream Deck. This is my audio interface, of course, my favorite Apollo Twin X. My drink, my hotline that attaches directly to Apple. Everybody knows that's real. And we get a phone call, we get a phone call. We'll have to see how that happens. I'm going to pull this out of the way. I think I have one more camera today. And I do have a new camera today. Let's see if I can pull that camera up a minute. So this is my Mevo Plus that I got. I got Mevo Plus, and actually it's live. And let me switch over to show you my Mac Pro. There is my Mac Pro on my Mevo Plus, sitting over here on the side. I can't point it at the screen because you get that infinity thing, but I have this camera available to show you anything. Let me show you here. We'll show you a close-up of this. This is a fun little camera. This is normally what I showed with the backyard. There's the phone, the hotline, the Apple hotline, right directly to Apple. So we can have fun with this. I can point it to different things throughout the day. One of the things I'm going to try today, and I don't know how well it's going to work, I'm going to try to show you Final Cut Pro live, some of the things, to show some of the features and stuff. Spencer Lewis says, running great on my 2019 iMac Big Sur beta computer that having issues with my 2013 MacBook Pro working with Apple on this problem. I had a problem today too when I was running it. Final Cut Pro locked up on me. Now I'm on my Mac Pro and I'm on, what am I running? I'm not on the beta. Let me just see what version I'm on. Catalina 10.15.6. 10.15.6. That's what I'm on right now. So far I like Final Cut Pro on Big Sur, but Big Sur doesn't have some things that I need right now. One of them is Little Snitch. As a matter of fact, let me turn this on so it doesn't have any problem. Little Snitch is one. Sound Source is another one. Hedge is not working in Big Sur at this point. So I'll have to see how that works out. But once again, you can go to FCPX.tv. Look, I have a whole list of Final Cut Pro articles. I even have one from Motion there. All the articles so far that have been released for Final Cut Pro 10.4.9. Just head on out there. And I'm going to keep it updated as we go along. So, is it me, but the interface looks clearer to me? Do you agree? It seems darker, I guess, one of the things that it does. So let me try to bring that up right now to see if it's going to work. I don't know. That's that. There it is. So that's Final Cut Pro Live on my Mac. I don't know how well this is going to work. It's going to be an experiment for me as well as you going live. I don't know. I don't know how well it's going to work. Christopher says works fine on Catalina. There are a few problems. with the new update. But I want to say right off the bat, congratulations, Final Cut Pro team. You have done a stupendous job with 10.4.9. It's bigger than I thought it was going to be. Absolutely bigger. Like I said, it really raises the bar for 10.5. Some of these features could have been in Final Cut Pro 10.5. Now, we still don't know when Final Cut Pro 10.5 is coming out. Is it coming out this fall with Big Sur? I would not be surprised to see 10.5 this year, 2020. Right alongside of Big Sur, right shortly thereafter. Nuno says, has anyone tried it with Big Sur? Yes, some people have tried it with Big Sur. They said it's fine. Christopher says, make sure you get the Pro Video Formats update. I have that in my slideshow, then reboot. You might have some grief with MXF import-output. So, yeah, there are some things to look out for. There are some issues. Let's go over here. So, well, let me see. That's not where I want it to be. So I started doing some slides, and they were a little bit blurry. So what I did was I launched Final Cut Pro, and we're going to try to get to those there. So Final Cut Pro 10.4.9. Once again, congratulations to the Final Cut Pro team. You've done an outstanding job. I don't think anybody is debating that aspect of it. 10.4.9, this is one of the issues. The library, this in my case, Miscellaneous Stuff 2020, must be updated to work with this version of Final Cut Pro. Updated libraries can't be opened in earlier versions of Final Cut Pro. To update the library, click Update. To leave the library untouched, click Cancel. You should update your libraries. You should make a copy of your libraries, I should say, before you update them. Same with Final Cut Pro. There's an article. Let's see if that article is up on my website. I think it is. Let me just check here. Yes, here we go. So let's go here. Once again, Final Cut Pro TV. Go to the update is out. This is my article that I did yesterday before it was announced. And here, before updating, back up your Final Cut Pro application, back up your libraries. The article tells you all about how to do that. Back up the application, back up the libraries. So do that before you update your libraries if you have any concerns, right? Yes, I'm telling you, yes, do that. Let's go back to the main page. That's the number one thing. I've seen issues where people can't update their libraries. They're having problems. Once they update them, they can't go back. We know that. So you have a choice here, update or cancel. Something else. Apparently, Camera Raw is not supported. Some installed plugins need to be updated. I don't know if Canon has a update for that yet or not. I don't know. Maybe somebody in the audience will know. The other thing is, once you update to Final Cut Pro 10.4.9, this should show up in your system settings as an update. Pro Video Formats 2.1.2. I updated that yesterday, but I have a complete backup of my OS operating system. Let's look at the comments. This show is about you. This is for you to make your comments. That's what I'm doing this show for. No iPad compatibility yet. Well, it's not a matter of iPad compatibility. You're talking about an iPad version. Once again, they showed Final Cut Pro, as a matter of fact, probably this version, running on an iPad chip, but not an iPad. iPad OS and Mac OS are two different OSs. Remember that. It's going to take a while to get there. Proxy is my number one. The social media thing is not really floating my boat. I have some comments to talk about that. I don't hate vertical video. So the way they've implemented it, I really, really enjoy the way they've implemented doing the vertical video and the square video. At this point, I don't need to export anything like that. I don't need everything I'm doing so far has not been for social media, not been for Instagram, not been for TikTok, whatever the heck it is. So, but I really like the way that they've implemented making those vertical videos. We're going to go over that hopefully, but hopefully Final Cut Pro will behave and won't crash and won't bog down my system. Was hoping for B-Raw, but I guess we'll wait for Final Cut Pro 10.5. I agree. I think we're going to get B-Raw in Final Cut Pro 10.5. Absolutely. I feel Apple should make previous versions available for download. Paula, what did I just tell you? Back up your application before you update. Then you have your own version. You don't have to worry about Apple. I don't know what happens if you're on an older version of the OS that doesn't support 10.4.9. Is it available in the App Store? Could be. I don't remember. I think it probably is, but I'm not positive. I'm going to take a drink here. One thing I like about this interface a lot is the mute button. I have a physical mute button, cough button they call it. So when I'm drinking, you can't hear me. I've always liked the real mute button rather than the software kind. The software kind are fine, but I like the physical feel of a physical button. So there's the, yeah. Let's see what else we have. No extra storage space to duplicate all libraries. Should I wait? I would not update an important library. And you don't have to update all your libraries. Just update the one you're going to work on. I would not just carte blanche update every library that I had. I would not do that. It's probably safe. I've been updating mine pretty much, but I have backups. I have backups of my libraries. At least 2, if not 3, and that includes media. This is a long one. It says, honest to goodness, I have not had any issues with any of the Macs running Big Sur Beta or Catalina or even Mojave. Only thing is my 2014 Mini turns out it only had a hybrid drive and just put an SSD in. I stopped doing hybrid drives a long time ago. As soon as I had on an iMac, but I just like the SSDs so much better. The thing I experienced was it keeping me logged into my Apple ID items. I noticed that as well. So when I switch back from Big Sur to Catalina, Big Sur, it's always wants me to update my Apple ID constantly back and forth. It's a real pain. Let's see what else we have. I'm updating my OS Catalina now. So Mini still needs to complete the update process. He says he means iPad compatibility as Logic Pro X has an app to help you controlling it beautifully. Oh, you mean an iPad app, not a Mac, not Final Cut Pro on the iPad. Yeah, that's been a thing. It's surprising, isn't it? Logic Pro's companion app has been out for a long time, and it works fine. Why haven't they done one for Final Cut Pro companion app not running on the iPad? Red plugin with updated metal GPU acceleration. Old one doesn't work now. That's correct. Mac OS Catalina has been an issue on my MacBook Pro. How old's your MacBook Pro? Not available on the App Store, only store's most recent update, right. So before you update it, back up your old version. That's what I'm saying. I have versions of Final Cut Pro back to 10.0. I actually have 10.0 on one of my old, I have this old 1-inch thick MacBook Pro that was fantastic back in the day. I still have the original version. This is interesting. Eric Emmerich says, based on the time between updates, I thought this would be a bigger update than it is. Eric, I really, truly think that they were going to show this update earlier in the year. And I think some things happened. I mean, obviously the pandemic happened and NAB was canceled and they just showed it barely at WWDC. And I think at any point, I mean, Logic 10.5 came out in the middle of May, 3 months ago, over 3 months ago. I was kind of expecting 10.5 or this version, 10.4.9 at that point. I think they've been juggling things back and forth, trying to figure out what they're going to do here. So I thought this was a big update. For a point update from 0.8 to 0.9, you don't think this is a big update? I think it's a huge update for that. This is as big as or close to being as big as 10.4.4, which came out almost, 22 months ago in October of 2018, I think it was. I don't count the metal update from last October as a big update. That was an under-the-hood performance thing. That's always fine, but not as far as features. Max says, I bet you know more than you can actually tell us. Am I right, Richard? Well, if you saw my phone call that I got last week, that would answer that question. Early 2013. I think there's been a lot of work under the hood to get ready for 10.5. Not only getting ready for 10.5, but they have two OSs going forward. They're going to have the Silicon OS and they're going to have the Intel OS for years to come yet. So they have to not only update Final Cut Pro for both of those, so it works on both of those. So my Mini is now running off the SSD. If the hybrid is now just for storage, it's pretty cool to have a 1 terabyte hybrid with a complete bootable backup. Yes, so I have all SSDs in my Mac Pro, of course. All SSDs, NVMe SSDs. Craig says, are there any improvements to the workflow with Logic Pro? So, not that I've seen, Craig. But here's something that I've realized after Logic 10.5 came out. Logic 10.5 is not a post-production audio app like Pro Tools or even Digital Performer is. When the last update came out, zip, as far as post-production, it's specifically, firmly a music production application. Now, I use it for editing audio all the time, but I've been using it for years and years and years. But the fact that they didn't do any post-production workflow update for Logic 10.5 when it came out was kind of a surprise, and it really reset my expectation for Logic Pro. Jason Williams says 4x4. You have to explain what that means. Is that a new car you have, a 4x4? I'm not sure. All right, let's go back to some of my top 10 things. I mean, it's going to be the same list as probably possible. So one of the things, this is a bit blurry. Let me go back to Final Cut Pro here. So one of the things that you first have to update is the preferences. Let me put that there. Is Final Cut Pro preferences. This new preference for a crossfade. So the default is, let's see what the default is. Oh, it's 1/10 of a second. The default is 1/10 of a second. So that's pretty good for most crossfades because you don't want them longer. Typically, if you do want them longer, you can adjust them manually. Now, can I zoom up on that? I don't know if I can zoom up on that or not. So that's one of the first things that you want to take care of. So Eric says, he says, it's a solid point update. Just like I said, the time between the last major update indicated something larger, but it's good. I understand that, but Eric, 10.5 is still in the works. And this is, don't you think this has raised the bar for 10.5 when it comes out? To me, it has. 10.4.9 is such a, it's, you know, for a point update, it's a big update. Yes, the time between updates, I agree. It's a long time. Look, I've been calling 10.4 Grandpa Final Cut Pro 10.4 because it's now 32 months old. But as I said yesterday, Grandpa Final Cut Pro 10.4 got a shot of adrenaline with this new update. It's got a major shot of adrenaline. So everybody likes the proxy stuff, right? The proxy workflow is fantastic. Let me see if I can pull some of that up here. I'm just going to look at Final Cut Pro. So the proxy workflow is really something that people were really, really waiting for. Not only myself, but a lot of people. We have the ability to make a proxy-only library in Final Cut Pro. You can now make a library without media in Final Cut Pro. So I keep my media outside of my library, so I always have a small library file that I can duplicate in stuff. But now in Final Cut Pro, you can actually make a media without a library without the media, right there. Proxy media destination, of course. You can copy media. You can copy media to stored in external locations. This is all stuff that's very, very handy. So the proxy media thing is fantastic. Let me pull this up. Let me see if I can find. I got to scrub through Final Cut Pro and see if I can get some of these things that we can show you on screen, because I didn't have the stuff that I was copying before the show were too blurry. I really couldn't see it. Let me put some of these. Wish the retime and transform buttons would stay above the storyline when using view on second display, or at least be in both places. It's a good point. Why 10.49 if 10.5 could be out in 3 or 4 months? Because they're two different applications. 10.5 is, I'm sure, is a big, big rewrite of Final Cut Pro. And I'm not saying that 10.5 is going to be out in 2020, but it would not surprise me to come alongside of Big Sur. I think 10.5 is going to be waiting for Big Sur for whatever reasons. Do you think the pandemic has changed Apple's timeline for what will be released, especially if an update will be related to work remote? I think the pandemic has changed everybody's timeline. I know it's changed mine. In one respect, it's made things easier. Before, when I got work, a lot of times I have to go into the location to their edit suite and edit from there. Now, working from home is the norm. So I can just get hard drives, or they can ship me hard drives, and I can just work from home. I don't have to talk them into letting me work from home. It's the norm. It's what's expected. But as far as, I think there's a couple of things. Number one is Final Cut Pro Creative Summit last fall. They didn't show us anything. They showed us 10.4.7, which was out a month before that, 6 weeks before that. So they had nothing to show at the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit last year. Not that I didn't appreciate talking to the team, but compared to years past, it was a bit of a disappointment, the Apple part. The Creative Summit itself was really, really good. It was really good. So something happened around the Creative Summit last year. We were expecting an update, maybe this 10.4.9 or something along those lines. Didn't happen. Then we figured, okay, well, NAB. They're going to show something on NAB. Well, first off, the pandemic hit. That certainly changed things. NAB, whether or not Apple was going to be there, we don't know because it got canceled. Then Logic 10.5 came out. Okay, 10.5 came out. Logic 10.5. The Final Cut Pro team is not going to let Logic leapfrog them in numbers, right? 10.5 came out. Where's Final Cut Pro 10.5? 3 months later, still don't have it, but we got 10.4.9, which is really cool. In Logic 10.5, they had FCPX 1.9, which now is in 10.4.9. But in answer to your question, Tangier, yes, I think it did change their timeline. I don't see how it couldn't. Maybe it's because nothing I wanted was implemented. Batch syncing, please. I understand, but this was like, listen, I've been talking on these shows all summer long. I get a cough. So I've been talking on these Final Cut Pro Radio TV Lives all summer long. And I've consistently been saying, if Final Cut Pro 10.5 is not ready, give us what you have for Intel's right now so we have something to work with. That's exactly what they did. They gave us the version that they have ready right now. So making H.264 proxies will be a long process if you don't have a quick sync enabled Mac like the old Mac Pro. The best part about this is the relinking. Relinking proxies, absolutely. H.264 proxies is gigantic. I mean, not only can we make H.264 proxies, let me see what's going on with, I'll have to go through this slideshow. Let me see what I've got here, because I'm not sure. Some of these are too blurry. So creating a proxy-only copy of a library, event, or project to reduce file size for portability or performance. So you can make a proxy-only library, event, or project inside of Final Cut Pro. We used to have to do some tricks and workarounds in the Finder to make that work. Creating proxy media in a variety of frame sizes, 12.5%, 50%, 75%, 100% of the original, either in ProRes 422 proxy or H.264 format. So what I've been doing recently is making the H.264 proxies, but I keep them 100% of the resolution. For me, that works out. And since I edit with I shoot with the GH5, it's already H.264. So there's no real advantage unless I've reduced the resolution for that. Pauline says, just check the WWDC 2020 video. He talks about neural engine and cropping, shows vertical video. My guess this social thing is stage 1 of tracking. Any 10.5, any 10.4.9 training coming? You mean from Apple? No, I don't see any training coming from Apple until 10.5 comes out. Logic has a 10.5 official Apple training manual coming out in September. So I expect Final Cut Pro to do the exact same thing, follow suit, but not till 10.5. Although I must say, we have our friend Ian Anderson coming on the show tomorrow morning, and he has a book on 10.4 and 10.4.9. So in that case, yes. My mind tends to glaze over when people start talking about media management. Great sleep aid. I think media management is important. I kind of like talking about it. If you can handle 10.4.9, then you can handle 10.5. Look down the highway of Final Cut Pro 10. I think that, well, 10.5 is going to work on Intel Macs for sure. I mean, Tim Cook has already said we're going to be supporting Intel Macs on Mac OS for years. That's plural to come. So we have Big Sur now. We have another update next year, most likely, and an update after that will be on Intel. And Final Cut Pro will also be on Intel. I have a strong feelings that Final Cut Pro 10.5 is going to break things and be very hardware and OS dependent. It's probably going to have some things that are going to depend on Apple Silicon, but they're not going to make a dozen things that only work on Apple Silicon. They'd be shooting themselves in the foot if they did that. Most Final Cut Pro editors are going to be on Intel Macs for years and years to come. So I got this Mac Pro 2019 December. They're not going to make an Apple Silicon version of that anytime soon. There's no way they're ready for that. They're doing iPads. They're doing iPad chips. They're just getting started in the chip process. So the Mac Pro is still going to be the main machine for years if you're considering getting one. I'm going to wait for my MacBook Pro till an Apple Silicon version comes out. I might wait for version 2. I'm not in any hurry. I don't use my MacBook Pro that much. I don't think, as far as Final Cut Pro 10.5, do you want them to release it before it's ready? Nobody wants that. They're going to test it, beta test it the best they can in-house. A few things might be broken. I do expect a few things will be Apple Silicon only. That's fine. Really tough thing to keep in mind. I'm not sure what that's referring to. 10.5 might be for purists like 10.0, Final Cut Pro 10.0 was. I don't think so. And the only question I have is if they're going to charge for 10.5. It's taking so long that I haven't heard any rumors to that effect. But if they call it Final Cut Pro 11, they could charge for it. Maybe. I would say that's probably a 25% chance that they would charge for it. I'd say probably not. I mean, Apple's got $2 trillion. I don't think they need Final Cut Pro, but I do want the Final Cut Pro team to have funds, don't you? Jason Williams says, check out Motion VXF and Pixel Film Studio. Some really good, awesome plugins in regards to Surface Track, really good ones. Yes, use them. And so have we got, let's do a couple more here. Create proxy media, variety of frame sizes, 12.5% to 100% of the original, either Apple ProRes 422 proxy. H2 says this is the biggest thing for me. So transcode media, create proxy media, ProRes proxy, H.264, frame size 50%, 100, 75, 50, and I think it goes down to, does it do 12.5? I'm not even sure. It does 12.5, but I'm not sure if it does 25. I don't know. Big deal. This is another big deal. So in the Final Cut Pro view menu, proxy preferred. Proxy preferred. When you do proxy preferred, let me get this off there. Wait a second. I can't cancel that for some reason. What am I missing? Oh, I know why, because that's not a preference. That's on my damn screen. I mean, that's in my timeline. So, view menu, proxy preferred. This is what I'll be using from now on. If you got one proxy file, it's mixed media. It prefers proxy. If I just go to proxy only, it'll go offline because I don't have any proxy. Proxy preferred means it'll use proxy files when possible, but also it'll use original or optimized media if there are no proxy files for that media. That's gigantic for me. I've been asking for that for a while. Other people have as well. Also, the templates I made inside of Logic work well with these updates too. The quadraphonic sounded my favorite for Final Cut Pro so far. Very cool. So let's see what the next one is. Mixed media timeline. I really, really like that. I use it all the time. So if you have ProRes RAW, there's now settings inside of Final Cut for ISO, exposure offset, camera color temperature for ProRes RAW. I don't have any ProRes RAW. I don't have any ProRes RAW right now, so I took a screen grab. Create square or vertical versions of a project in Final Cut Pro. So here's the thing about vertical video. I don't like it particularly. I don't watch videos on my phone like this. I do this. I watch videos like this, YouTube or whatever. I don't watch them like this. I don't enjoy them. I certainly don't enjoy them watching them on my 34-inch LG monitor. I got this little sliver of a video in the middle. However, saying that, I completely understand that people have to deliver to Instagram and they have to deliver to TikTok. I understand that. I haven't had to. I don't film with that in mind. I just don't. I mean, if I have to in the future, I'll be glad this feature is here. Let me see if I can find, but I really like, here's the thing. I really like this, the way they've implemented this. Let me see if I can find this little segment that I did. Here it is. Nathan says, I love that. I've sent so many feedback requests for proxy preferred. Nathan, when somebody says they don't listen, tell them they listen. They read every single request you send in for proxy feedback. As a matter of fact, if you go here, once again, to the FCPX.TV, right here on the main page, I have a link. Right here on the main page, I have a link to go right to Final Cut Pro feedback page. Right there on the main page. FCPX.TV, it's very simple. I've had it since Final Cut Pro 10 came out. And it's right there. It's also the link for Final Cut Pro to try for 30 days. But the link is right there. Send your request or feedback to the Final Cut Pro team here. They absolutely listen. They don't listen, but they have a person that reads those things full time. Let's put this up. Final Cut Pro Radio TV Live. Michael says, I sure would like to know which chipsets, CPUs, and GPUs will be best optimal for the new OS in Final Cut Pro 10.5. New Intel Max looks delicious. That new Intel Max certainly does. Cedric says, sorry, I have customers that use vertical videos for social, so having that feature saves time. I understand that. I'm not disagreeing with it saves time. I just don't use it so far. Now, if I'm going to work for somebody and I'm going to edit their video and they're going to say, hey, we need social, we need vertical video, we need square video, that's that's fantastic that it's in there. But here's the thing. I really like the way it's implemented. So let's go over here. Watch this. Here's the video. Let me see if I've got this played to playback. So here's a video that I did. It's just a timeline. It's a regular timeline. As a matter of fact, let me put a marker there. The other timeline is just a regular H.264, 16 by 9. But here I made a vertical version of, actually this is not, I just did a screen flow. This is actually screen flow that I did. So I made a vertical version of this. Here's one of the things I like about it. You can change the transparency of, so here's the vertical, but if you want to see what's outside the vertical, you can change the transparency of the slice of video. You can see your entire video. Now watch this. So here's the video. And if you change the anchor point, you can actually slide it over. So if I want that video to go across vertical video, this is my boxing instructor. I videotape his classes. So here we go. So here, instead of staying stationary on that one guy, it slides across. And you do that by changing the anchor point. You change the anchor point right here, and you can keyframe it. But I like the fact that you can view, and let me see where it is. Choose custom overlay. No, that's not it. Show custom overlay. So in one of these is when you have it, I don't have it. Let me pull up that that project. That's interesting. One of those was a 16 by 9, but for some reason, oh, here it is. This is it. This has to be it. No, that's not it either. So I don't have that. I don't have the actual project for some odd reason anymore. But you can make yourself let me go back. You can make yourself a vertical video, and then you can see outside of the vertical slice, left and right, to see what media is available. Let me adjust this one window up a little bit. And one of the other big things, big deal, this is a big deal to me, this one. Duplicate project, reveal project in browser. My keyboard shortcut is probably different than yours. Mine is Command P, project properties, close this version or close other timelines. This is a big deal. Big deal. As far as vertical videos go, yes, I understand. You need them. People need them to output. I don't watch vertical videos. When a vertical video comes up, I just scroll right by. I just don't want to watch them. I find them aggravating. But I understand that some people need them. That's fine. That's fine. I might need them in the future, so I'm glad this feature is there. But I generally do not watch vertical videos. I just go right on by. Speaking of which, I don't prefer vertical either, but I see these recropping tools are great. They are great, especially the way Apple has implemented them. With the ease of recropping, maybe we'll see people making more versions rather than vertical only. So if you're going to make a vertical video, if I was going to make a vertical video specifically for an iPhone or for Instagram or for whatever, I would shoot it completely differently. I wouldn't shoot it in horizontal. I wouldn't do that. That's ridiculous. I mean, there's films that you just can't do. You can't crop a center out of a widescreen film. I'm shooting anamorphically nowadays. If I was going to shoot specifically that way, I would shoot vertically to start with. But I understand. I think the tools are really great that they're there. I think they work really, really well. So I just don't watch vertical videos. I just have other things to watch. This is one thing to be aware of. HDR media doesn't display correctly when transcoded into H.264 proxy. HDR clips will be transcoded using ProRes proxy. That is a big deal. Now, one of the issues that we've had in the past when you make proxy media, it would only make proxy media of the clips that you selected. It would not make proxy media of audio, or if a video had, or if you had a graphic, or ones that had transparency, it wouldn't make those. It wouldn't make proxies. So you end up getting all the proxy videos put into place, and the audio wasn't there, and the graphics weren't there, and the transparent items weren't there. Now they are. Now Final Cut Pro copies audio, graphics, transparent clips, places them with the proxy media. Major. Maybe we'll see less vertical versions where it isn't needed. I agree, shoot 19:6. Once again, I make fun of vertical video. It seems like it's teenagers do it and people that don't know any better. With exceptions. I understand there's exceptions. I don't enjoy it, so I don't shoot that way. I shoot horizontal. As a matter of fact, I like anamorphic is my favorite way to shoot. It's a 2-to-1 frame or whatever the heck it is. But I understand it's necessary. If I work for a company and they need that, then I'm glad the tools are there. I like the way Final Cut has implemented them. Let me see if I can find that. I really do. So you can put the crop over. Let me pull this up. Here it is. So you can put the crop over. Interestingly, the transparent rest of the clip disappears when you press play. It turns to dark, whatever it is. I really like the way this is working. I really like the way they've implemented it. I really do. So even though I don't shoot vertical video and I'd rarely have need for it, I'm glad it's there. I don't dislike that feature. It's the vertical video that I'm not a fan of. But that's okay. That's okay. I mean, being from an audio world, I didn't like MP3s originally when they first came out either, did I? No, I didn't. I liked records. And then CDs sounded better. I liked tape. I didn't like MP3s, but now it's just the way of the world. It's the way they are. All my podcasts, speaking of which, Final Cut Pro Radio will be having a new edition coming out this week. What's today? The 26th. It'll be out in a couple of days. FinalCutProRadio.com, of course, will have a new version, a new edition of Final Cut Pro Radio. We've been going on over 5 years, and we'll have a new edition specifically about Final Cut Pro 10.4.9. It'll be out probably in a week or so. This week, I mean. This week. So Gert says, I once saw a great 9:16 video interview shot vertically of artists and their instruments, did the same of a guy playing his guitar, worked out great. If I'm shooting vertical video, what I would do is I'd put a slice here and another slice over here and another slice over here, so I'd make a horizontal version of clips that are shot that way. I've shot a very few, maybe I've shot 1% of the video I've shot vertically because it didn't make sense to shoot it horizontally. Like, for example, somebody was sitting on a bed and I was shooting, it was my mother, and I was shooting her talking, and it didn't make sense to shoot it horizontally because it wasn't, I wanted to get a picture of her sitting on the bed, so I shot it vertically. So I have shot vertical video. And there's some videos that I watch vertically, but for the most part I won't. I just scroll right on by. There's too many videos to watch, right? All right, so let's see what we got here. Is that the end of the slideshow? I don't know if it is. But anyway, what features do you have? I guess it is the end of the slideshow. That is the end of the slideshow. So your features are what? Your favorite features? Jason Williams says, are you kidding? I love vinyl. My Techniques 1200s, MK2s to do. Have you heard it sounds incredible. No, I like vinyl too. I like vinyl too. I just brought up I have a recording studio that I had in the 90s, reel-to-reel decks, tape. I just brought them back online. I started digitizing my VHS tapes from the 1990s. I took a trip to London and I started digitizing those tapes. I love those reel-to-reel tape decks. I belong to a Facebook group, a couple of Facebook groups that are specifically dedicated to reel-to-reel decks. I love those things. They just sound so fantastic. Fantastic. So what else do we have on our list? Let me pull up my list of things. Make sure we didn't miss anything. Got to rearrange the screen so I can read things. Garrett says proxy workflow. Proxy workflow is gigantic. We've talked about that. H.264 and choosing resolution size is fantastic. And the mixed media timeline is also. Jason says reel-to-reel is amazing. Let me see. So speaking of that, let me pull this up here. A new preference here for crossfade. Default is 1/10 of a second. It's a very, very fast crossfade. This is my reel-to-reel, which probably is pretty much what you want. So if you want to bump it up, you can bump it up. That's the first thing we want to do. So that was my proxy. I'm getting audio for someplace. Let me turn this off here. Save it. These are the new options we have. Where in the heck is that audio coming from? Library without media. Let me see. A skinny library. media. We can choose original media, optimized media, or proxy media. I don't know where that audio is coming from. This is going to be a proxy-only version of this library. We can now do a proxy version. So original media that doesn't support transcoding will be copied to the destination library's storage location. That is files with transparency and still image it. I had a preview clip underneath a whole bunch of other things playing. So, and a word about my Mac Mini. Everything is working perfectly now. It's updating and no more issues with the Apple. Let me pull the list back up again. Make sure. What it was a file that I had pressed to preview, and it was underneath of a bunch of other files, so it was playing in the background. So let's see what else we have. I think we've covered most of the big things. I mean, these are common things. Everybody likes, yeah, bring all to front. Thank you. I finally found it. ProRes RAW settings, that's been a big one. The pop-up menu above the timeline, I wish they'd put projects in there, not just close this one or close all others. I wish they'd put all the projects in there so you could choose them. The backwards forwards errors don't work for me. They never did. Oh, one of the other things, you can sort clips and projects by last modified date now in the browser list. Custom overlays. You can use custom overlays if you have a title or something or that you want to work with. You can do that now. Have we missed anything? Final Cut Pro export, FCPX 10.4.9 is out. And there's plenty of good, like I said, there's plenty of good tutorials out there. I'm not going to, the tutorials are available, FCPX.tv. I have a master list. So I always get, people are always plugging their own stuff, of course. My list plugs everybody, all the best. Anything that comes to my attention, I will put it on the list. If I missed one, let me know. I'm just going to check good old Twitter, see what's going on. Let's check. By the way, Facebook, if you want to do Facebook, the Final Cut Pro Radio Facebook group, it's here. Where is it? Final Cut Pro Radio. You can join it. It's in the groups section, Final Cut Pro Radio. Of course. There we are live. Look at that. We're watching ourselves live. Amazing technology, isn't it? I like the internet. You got a pretty good internet speed. Oh, we didn't talk about that. Good Lord. We didn't talk about crossfades, of all things not to talk about. Of course, crossfades are fantastic in Final Cut Pro 10.4.9. Let me pull Final Cut Pro up again. So it used to be, as a matter of fact, I did a documentary this weekend. There's a local reservoir that this group cleans up on its own every week. And I went through, let me see if I have it up there. Let me pull it up here. I went through, no, it's not. And, you know, I crossfade all the individual audio channels. I mean, the audio clips, so they don't have clicks and stuff. Now there's crossfades available, of course. So let's pull that up. Here it is. So now you just select two clips and you go up to the modify menu. Where is it? Adjust audio fades, crossfade. Now I made mine Option Command S. And if you zoom in now, I'll zoom in here and Control S and zoom in, you can see crossfades here. Automatically made crossfades. Can you select what kind of crossfade? Yes, you can. You can select linear, S-curve, plus 3 dB or minus 3 dB, so that's still available. Probably not as a default. These little audio buttons are very fiddly sometimes. But anyway, crossfades now. It does it the Final Cut Pro way. Major, major improvement in Final Cut Pro. All right. Any other questions or comments before we get out of here? I got a keyboard shortcut for another application there that I don't want. Where's that? Where's that? It's not that one. I got so many menu items up there. It's incredible. But anyway, there, got it off. So thanks, Final Cut Pro team. We appreciate it. So things like crossfades and batch syncing are a long wanted, needed feature. How do you rationalize Apple taking so long, implement only one of these and sorely needed? Because 10.5 is coming out. That's what they're working on. Let's see what features are in 10.5. Then we can have a discussion about the future of Apple and whether they should implement things. Will they get everything in 10.5? Yes, they will. I don't know if they will or not. I noticed they defaulted to S-curve rather than plus 3 like they used to. I wish we could choose those kind of defaults, preferences. I wish there was a little checkbox that says choose this one rather than this one. But anyway, they knocked some things off of my list. I have a list of things I'd like to see in Final Cut Pro. So we'll have to see how that works going forward. But anyway, we want to talk about the Final Cut Pro team once again, and we want to appreciate everything that they're doing. Hello. Yes, this is Richard. We're live on the air once again. I want to thank you, whoever this is, for the update to Final Cut Pro 10.4.9. The entire audience appreciates it. So give us a call back when you can tell me about a future version of Final Cut Pro. Give us a call back live on the air. But we appreciate it. Thank you for calling in last week. Everybody appreciates it. Everybody. Oh, really? Huh. Well, that's interesting. Call back anytime. Thank you very much. Another call from somewhere. All right, everyone. I'm going to head back out of here. Do you have anything else you want to talk about? I think we've covered more than 10 features of Final Cut Pro. Like I said, go here, FCPX.tv. I'm going to keep this updated all day today. I've updated it yesterday. I've got my friend Ian Anderson's coming on tomorrow morning. It'll be early because he's from Australia. He's going to come on and talk about his new book. And Hedge for Mac's coming on tomorrow as well. They're coming on, I think, let me think. I think Hedge for Mac's coming on at 11 o'clock Eastern tomorrow. Hedge, we're going to talk to them as well. Crossfades, a welcome addition. We got 2 episodes tomorrow. One at 8:30, 9 o'clock Eastern with Ian Anderson from Australia talking about 10.4.9. And then at 11 o'clock, we have one with Hedge for Mac talking about Hedge. .4.9 feels very much like pandemic slowed us down on 10.5, but given more people work happening, here's our new proxy workflow. A little early and a few other things. It's certain these features, they could have waited for 10.5 and put these features in there, but I've been saying all summer, give us what you got. Give us the Intel version of what you got. Don't wait for 10.5 if it's going to take a while. I mean, if it's coming out now, that's fine. Who thinks that 10.5, we're going to see 10.5 in 2020? We have 3.5 more months. Nathan says, yeah. I certainly would like to see it in 10.5 in 2020. Let me give you a scenario. I don't know anything about this. Nothing. The Final Cut Pro Creative Summit is coming up in October or November. Probably. Haven't heard a word. It's not going to be in person this year. It's going to be virtual. Wouldn't it be cool if Apple did a presentation virtually for the Creative Summit, whatever they do, and they showed us Final Cut Pro 10.5? That would be fantastic. Even a preview would be fantastic, even if it's not ready. But I think it's getting close to being ready. I think 10.4.9 is a good precursor to what 10.5. It seems like 10.5 is a brand new version. Doesn't it seem like that to you? It does to me. Like it's built from the ground up again, like they did with 10.1, 10.0 to 10.1. Not sure. Maybe this update is buying them more time. Maybe they'll come in the fall. Yeah, it's buying them more time for sure. This is what I wanted. I just wanted to get the update out, and it finally came out. So, all right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. You guys and gals are always great. I appreciate it. I do this for you. I enjoy doing it, and we'll see what happens. So support the people that have done the videos and stuff. I like Ripples a lot, of course. I like Ripples training a lot. I always enjoy Steve and Mark. I really miss them not going to the Creative Summit this year. I'm hearing more and more editors wanting Final Cut Pro 10 for the iPad. The screen real estate isn't enough, though. I think it'll come at some point. I don't think it's going to be here this year. Going to test XML with Logic 10.5 tonight. Good luck with that, Gert. So I'm going to head out of here, and I'll be back tomorrow morning with Ian Anderson from Australia, and tomorrow at 11 o'clock with Hedge for Mac, and we'll be talking about the new updates to Final Cut Pro, how it affects Hedge, and at 8:30 or 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, Ian's got a new book coming out on Final Cut Pro. We'll be talking about some of the things with Final Cut Pro from his point of view and also his new book. Ripple is awesome. It would be nice to see Mitch again. They are awesome. So send your feedback to the Final Cut Pro team. Once again, just go to FCPX.tv. It's right there in the main page, right here. Just click on that, send their feedback. Just say thank you for 10.4.9. Were you expecting it 10.4.9 in August? I wasn't. I'm thankful, very thankful, but when was the last time they did a major update? This is a major feature update. I mean, maybe not major, but certainly a feature update in August. When was the last time the Final Cut Pro team did a feature update for Final Cut Pro in August? I don't think they've ever done one. All right, everyone, I'm going to head out. Got some lunch waiting for me somewhere. I can smell it. Thanks, Final Cut Pro team. You guys have done a great job. We appreciate all that you do for us. Now on to 10.5. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in.